Or good morning to all of you on the West Coast. I'm Kathleen Storr, the Director of Community and Content Strategy here at Special Events Magazine and your moderator today. Welcome to today's webinar, Event Design Trends for 2022, 6 Magic Words We Did the Legwork for You. This is a big, important topic as we approach the coming year and how we delight our clients' many event requests. I'd like first to offer a big thank you to our sponsor, Court, for making today's webinar possible, and to our guest speaker, Kevin Dana, Executive Director of Merchandising and Product Development for Court Events. A little bit about Kevin. He is responsible for researching and identifying world and national furniture and design trends, then applying them to Court's merchandising and product development strategy. In his 19-year tenure at Court, he's previously led marketing strategy and developed proprietary brands such as the Endless Seating Collection. He served as a trustee on the National Association of Catering and Events Foundation, was named 2013 Marketing Professional of the Year by Event Solutions Magazine, and he is an authority on exhibit, meeting, and event furnishing design and decor trends. It is my pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Kevin Dana, Executive Director of Merchandising and Product Development for Court Events. His topic today, this wonderful event design major trend overview, for which I'm very excited to listen to. I hope you are as well. Kevin, can you please take it away?
Yes. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Ellis. Good morning and good day to everybody, and thanks to Special Event Magazine for providing the platform to share these thoughts about design trends for the meetings, events, trade show, and conference industry. Especially now that we are restarting, this is a very exciting time. We're all getting back to doing what we love to do, and that's planning and producing events. I'm going to start today and talk about overall furniture design trends. And these trends are the overall macro trends that are happening out in the markets today. And then once we go through that, then I'm going to talk about more specific design concepts for our industry and how these trends translate to the business of events. But starting, I think we need to step back and say, what's a trend and then what's a fad? Because there certainly is a difference. And really, that's my job, is to go out into the market and to assess what's going on in furniture and design and really find out what is going to make an impact for our industry. And then also to assess, what isn't. There are certainly things out there happening in the markets that don't translate well to the events industry. And there are certain things, especially when it comes to color sometimes, that don't translate as well. And I use the example of neon. A few years ago, we saw neon really trending at some furniture shows. And I didn't really believe that that was ever going to become a big trend in our industry. So that was what I would term a fad. So definitely fads fade quickly. And a trend is something that is prevalent and is popular or fashionable, and it's going to make an impact. And it really reflects what's happening in society, what's happening in our culture, and in our economy. And of course, the elephant in the room is COVID. So that has had a big impact on our industry. And we'll talk a little bit how that relates to how we're designing events and shows coming in the next year or so, because it does impact that. And it's impacting it in many different ways. So moving forward, let's dive right in to major event trends in the industry. So I've boiled this down to really 3 large trends that are happening. Modern bohemian is the first one. And this is leaving behind, looks that are stark and getting into an era where we're focused on layering and texture and mixing patterns. It's definitely what I would term maximalism. So for many years, we were in the mid-century design phase, I would say, where that had a resurgence. And now we kind of are going away from those stark looks and getting into more of this textural overload. Some other major trends going on: Art Deco, simple curvy forms, romantic and luxurious, but also incorporating a lot of lush fabrics, simple woods, and really putting it all together in an eclectic but luxurious feel. And then a smaller trend, retro modern. I'm going to go over that as well and show you what that looks like, where we're really reliving the 70s and 80s in patterns and colors, and mixing materials, lots of shine. So I'm going to give some examples of that as well. But I think at the top of all of this is, and I go back to where we've been in the last year and a half, almost 2 years now. We are really focused on environments that feel like home. We want comfortable environments. Our attendees want to be comfortable now that they're venturing back out into events and shows and meetings. And so I think as we design, we need to think about that, because that's what's really driving the industry now, is that creating these environments that really feel like home. So starting with the modern boho trend, this really relates to eclecticism, but with a modern twist. So you're going to see traditional materials like woods and metals and marbles, and that really inspires the design. But then you're going to be mixing all sorts of different types of materials to create a new look that's a little bit more refined. It also incorporates some other elements like Danish Modern and even mid-century modern too, to create these looks. And those two images you see there are from the Neocon show in Chicago. So this is where you can really see how modern boho or modern bohemian ism, translates to even looks that are good for the workplace. So you can see, the various materials and the fabrics and the colors, all mixing together to create a really relaxed but sophisticated environment. And here's another good, excuse me, that one went by too fast. Another good example of like a modern bohemian look. So you see the mixing of all those materials. You've got a lot of different layers and textures. You've got wood, metal, fabric, and even greenery all mixed together to create that environment that is relaxed, but it is still refined. The next big trend is Danish Modern. And Danish Modern has really kind of pushed out mid-century modern. The difference being here is the shapes are more organic, those forms. They're iconic. They're a smaller profile. There's a lot more curves. It's just a little bit more soft than I would say the mid-century looks that were more boxy over the past few years. So simplicity and functionality are really important here in Danish Modern design. You can use Danish Modern as the base and then layer all sorts of things on top of it, like accessories, color, different types of materials. So I think that image on the left really gives a good example of how you can incorporate Danish Modern looks into something that is very modern and very current, using rugs, accessories, wall colors, things like that, to create that look that feels a little more current, even though you're using Danish Modern, which is a style that is pretty retro. Here's some great examples of Art Deco. Here again, you see those really feminine, curvy silhouettes on the furnishings. That's the most important part of Art Deco. It's elegant, it's romantic. You're seeing a lot of layering here, geometric shapes and patterns. So, again, leaving behind those boxy looks. And these shapes are more dramatic, and they also feel a little bit more sophisticated. And we're going to talk as we get further along here about the colors and the fabrics as well. But you can see here some of those rich colors and rich fabrics, including velvet, that contribute to that overall look. Retro modernism kind of goes hand in hand with the Art Deco, but it really relates more back to the 70s and the 80s. Again, with the rich fabrics. You do see a lot of different types of stitching, which we're going to go over, quilted or tufting or channel stitching. You're really juxtaposing elements, masculine and feminine. So you might see some big, bold prints, and you might see some dark metals also with some softer looks like wood and patterns that could even incorporate florals. So again, it's another eclectic story here, but you're mixing things that are a little bit bolder than the normal Art Deco. And typically, you're going to see a lot of this with those 70s and 80s colors that we're going to review here in just a moment. So those are the three overall design concepts. And as we break down here, we're going to talk about color. I love color. I'm passionate about color. Colors have power. They make you feel things. They make your attendees feel things. They relate to your brand. They relate to your theme. So color is very, very important when you're designing an event. And I'm going to go over the major color trends right now. I'm going to go over each one of these individually. So I'm going to go to the next slide and start with the most popular and important color trend right now, which is green. So this is not surprising. Green is a color that really does play well with most other hues. It leans on the biophilic trend. And when I say biophilic, what that means is bringing the outdoors inside. So that trend has been going on pre-pandemic, and it's even more important now as we're creating environments that are warm and comfortable. So every major paint company that has announced Color of the Year so far has announced some version of green as the color of the year for 2022. We're still waiting on Pantone, but my money is on soft basil. So we'll see if that comes true. Sometimes I'm not so good at predicting what Pantone is going to do, but if they follow all of the other paint companies, there will be a shade of green announced as their color of the year. But as far as out in the furniture and design industry right now, you're seeing those greens represented everywhere. And all sorts of hues. So here's the basil, the moss, the olives, the sage, avocado, the lighter shades. But we're also seeing the more vibrant shades, Kelly greens, chartreuse, the greens that are a little bit bolder that also pair with, some of the lighter colors. And then we're also seeing the deep hues, those moody forests and emerald greens as well, and jewel tones. So right now, the big story with green is all shades of green, even though some of the colors of the year that you're seeing are the more calmer tones. And there's really a dichotomy of what's going on in color right now. There are those calming shades that are very, very popular, which are really relate to how people want to experience events right now. And with all of this conflict in our lives and chaos, those calming colors really help to, put us in a place where we are, feeling more comfortable, especially when we're going back to attending trade shows and events. The other thing that's happening are those big bright colors that add energy. So those are also important too. So there's a little bit of a juxtaposition, two various types of color hues that are trending right now in the market. I wanted to next go to the blues because blues have been really important for the past several years. It was gray, then it went to the blues, and the blues are still very, very important. Everything from those cool blues to the more gray blues. You're still going to see those very, very important, the midnight, the navy, those electric blues. The gray blues, like I mentioned, because gray was such an important color over the past few years, we're seeing these blues that have those gray undertones, and so they really pair well with, gray in design. The next big trend are warm neutrals. So these are all of the cream, the beige, the taupe, and even the pale grays. And these create, again, that restful, monochromatic environment that really puts attendees at ease, that, puts your guests at ease, and it's a very comfortable story. And as you look across, these pictures, these are calming environments. And so we'll talk a little bit more about the fabrics on them as well. But these neutrals, they pair well with any color, so it's very easy to represent these in your designs and have them play cohesively with whatever other colors you want to present. I do have the slide about gray. Gray was the new black about 10 years ago, and it's kind of just a staple now. So you're seeing it more with the blue undertones, but again, gray, super important color. One more example of the grays that we're seeing out there. One thing that I saw, I attended the NeoCon show in October in Chicago, and there were some things that were going on there that were very interesting with these calmer shades, and starting with the rustic reds and the soft orange tones. This is that palette that creates warmth and connection. We saw these colors really trending back in Cologne in January 2020 at the furniture market in Cologne. And that's where we really started to see them trending. And then things kind of got put on hold, but then it was very interesting to see this color palette then be represented this October at NeoCon. So I do believe, it's taken a little while. The pandemic put it on hold, but these calming shades, the adobes, the terracottas, these earth tones, they're really a soothing neutral that you can, bring to event that I think, also pairs well with those greens that are happening out there right now. Moving forward, the pale salmons and coral, these are also were represented in Cologne in 2020 and now at NeoCon in 2021 in the US. So I do think these shades are a little bit more difficult for us to design with for, I would say, the more event masses, but they are trending out there. So, you need to be aware that they're there, and they are a softer color palette. So I think that they do play well to the environment that we're in right now. I mentioned jewel tones earlier. Jewel tones were trending pre-pandemic. They're still trending. They're dramatic. They're colorful. They add energy. And, they really work well on those velvety, lush fabrics, as you can see in some of these images, some from actual events, some from architectural setups. They bring that energy. There's a lot of richness there. They add vibrancy, and they work very, very well on the velvets. Black and white. So we're seeing more and more in magazines, in fashion. Black and white is having another moment. And, black and white is that trend that I liken it to animal prints. It goes away for a little while and then it comes back. So it is trending again. And, you can do black and white in many, many different ways, and it works for almost every look. And it pairs really well with some of those bold colors and even with the softer colors as well. So, here's a good example of, incorporating that black and white look. And from Court's perspective, when we look at our most popular products, white is always near the top, and it's near the top every year. And that's just because it is that clean palette. And I think for events and meetings and trade shows, white is never going to go out of style. Finally, one word about black. Black has been trending from everywhere from table bases, and I'm going to show some examples to that, to the colors used in upholstery. So black is also having a bit of a moment as well. And I think part of that reason too is it works very, very well with those deep greens. They're really lovely together. They create a really luxurious, lush look. So, black again is one of those colors that just really never goes out of style. So I'm going to move on to design attributes. So these are things that are used in furnishings that are trending right now, and we're going to start with the fabrics. So the biggest story right now in fabrics, it's not velvet, believe it or not, it's these more textural fabrics, specifically the boucle. And you can see examples of the boucle there, which are those really rich, soft furs that have a deep pile. They're faux furs, of course, and everything from chenille to shaggy upholstery. These are the fabrics that feel like they're giving you a warm hug. They work great in this environment where we are trying to create these cozy, residential, comfortable designs, and they work great on the curvilinear furniture as well. So this is really the biggest story right now happening in fabric. The previous biggest story was velvet, and velvet really has not diminished. We've just seen the boucle and those textured fabrics come on strong, but velvet, I believe, is still going to be important and prominent for another few years, just because it's versatile and there's all different types of velvet, and it works on all different types of furnishings. I have a couple slides here about curves, and I've mentioned it a few times already, but it is the most important design concept in furnishings right now. It translates to that Danish modern look. It translates to the Art Deco look and the retro modern. And you're seeing it everywhere on furnishings. It's a softer look. It marries well with the fabrics. And whenever you're designing, you want to think about those curves in your designs, even if you have furniture that's not curvy, because not every curvy piece of furniture works in design. So, but you can incorporate curves even when you're using, furniture that's not necessarily curvy. Another design attribute that was trending pre-pandemic is stitching details. So here are examples of channel stitching, whether it is narrow stitching or wide, in vertical, horizontal, but channel stitching adds more depth and dimension to the velvets and the fabrics and the textiles. And then also a little bit more interesting stitching details like harlequin, diamond stitch, box stitches, and some more organic shaped quilting. All of those design details are add interest to what could be just a very simple piece of furniture or fabric. I mentioned black frames earlier, and so here's some great examples of black frames in seating and in tables. Chrome was very big for a long, long time, and chrome is still very, very important. And actually, we're seeing chrome come back and a little bit of a resurgence. But black, in particular, is the new gold. So, black frames on everything. It really relates to that, modern bohemian look. It grounds designs. It works well with wood. So you're going to continue to see a resurgence of black frame furnishings. Some more design attributes, really mixing materials. And when I say mixing materials, I mean several different materials on one piece of furniture or in a design vignette. So here we're showing, everything from the faux furs mixed with woods to the vinyl and fabrics to wood mixed with the caning. So there's a lot of different ways you can mix types of materials to get something that is unique, even if it's on a shape that is very well-known and retro, like these little chairs here. And I'm sorry, I missed one image here. We had one of these chairs that had chroming around the edge too, with the wood and with the fabric. So, these are great examples of how you can mix, pretty well-known materials together on a well-known piece of furniture and get something that feels fresh and entirely different. Wood frames on furnishings. So this is another Danish modern attribute for furniture. You're seeing a lot of these types of chairs that have that wood frame and then various different types of fabric and textiles incorporated with them. So I love all these chairs. They add a little bit of warmth. And again, you're seeing those mixed materials here represented on this style. So this is something that we saw a lot of in Cologne in 2020, and then also at Neocon in this last show in October. Color blocking, ombre, and multi-tone colors all used in one design or on one piece of furniture. So, you can see those ombre designs on the tables. I think that's super cool. The color blocking here on the furniture and the multi-tone and two-tone looks. And I especially love this look here with the back wall, with mixing those various tones of color on the wall to bring in that sense of energy to this look, where it's just really just a basic gray piece of furniture. It adds energy. So incorporating different tones all together in color blocking, I think is going to become more and more important over the next couple of years. Marble and granite on tabletops. So I believe probably I'm not telling anybody anything new about marble. It's been trending for probably 6-7 years, and it is continuing to trend in not just marble, granite and stone. And really, the marbling is getting more prominent. You're seeing more veining in the marbling, so it's not as subtle as it used to be. It's more dramatic, and I think that plays really well into that retro modern look and into the Art Deco looks. So, anticipate that marble will continue to trend for the next few years. So design element must-haves. So now we're moving into when you're thinking about designing your environments for trade shows and events and meetings. What's important right now? And a lot of these things, they do relate to this post-COVID era that we're moving into. So the first one is side tables. Again, side tables were trending before. These are a really great piece of furniture to have in a design because guests and attendees can move them around. And that's even more important now as guests decide how they want to move around in a space. This allows them to bring a table with them and to rearrange the furniture. And I've told this story before, when I started my career in furnishings, and we would design these great events, and then you are there at the event and you watch people experience it and you see them moving around the furniture and you spend all this time on the design and then suddenly they're moving the chairs and they're moving the tables. But really, I've grown to realize that that's how they should be experiencing event, and that's what you really want them to do. So small guest or side tables allow your guests to experience the event the way they want to. So, and to that end, this is why I really love small ottomans too, because the big furniture is great, and that's what provides the structure to your designs. But these small tables and ottomans, again, allow attendees to move around. It's a movable collage. They can create, impromptu moments for networking and collaborating and connecting. And, you don't have to worry about that. So I think in every big design you do, you should make sure you're incorporating small tables and ottomans. So they do have that ability to either move away or get closer to other attendees. Biophilic trend. So bringing the outside in and greenery was very important pre-pandemic, and it's even more important now. Again, greenery provides that warmth, that sense of calm. It brings in that organic feel. And, a lot of the greenery that we use in the rental business is not real. They're not real plants. But you know what? They look so real, it doesn't even matter. So, you're still creating that feeling of having that, the outside come indoors, even if it's not real plants. Now, I think you can mix both. In fact, in this picture here, you can see a lot of real plants in the back of this meeting space. And there's a lot of different ways to get greenery into a room now. It's not just hedges. You can use hanging plants. You can use potted plants, you can use dividers, and I really, really love this picture from Neon here. This is a wall divider that has the pots, just kind of stuck into the velvet on the divider. So, I think as you're designing spaces, I think it would be remiss to not think about, how are you going to get some greenery into that design one way or another, especially if it's like a hotel ballroom or if it's, a space that is basically four walls. I think that is something that you always have to consider because it's definitely going to help put your guests at ease and create that feeling of warmth. Charging and power. So our devices aren't going anywhere. In fact, it's more important than ever to stay connected. And so when designing for events and meetings, especially, you want to make sure that you have plenty of places to do that. Incorporated into the furniture, like you can see here, this is a charging pad in addition to outlets. A wireless charging pad, used as an end table. That's a great way to incorporate power. There's power in these tables down here. There's also what we have a product called a Village Charging Hub, which is just a little stick-like device that can be placed anywhere around a room. And again, it's small and allows the guests to move it around and charge wherever they're sitting. So definitely don't forget, places for your guests and attendees to be able to charge their devices. Okay, so now some big overall concepts for design for today. And by today, I mean right now and for the next year. And I'm going to mention again, we're moving into this post-COVID world. And so we're kind of in this very strange time when you have some attendees who still want distance design. You have some attendees who are completely comfortable with going back to the way things were and experiencing events and shows the way they used to be. And then you have people that are kind of a little bit of both. They're comfortable with some people, they're not comfortable with others. You've got people who are vaccinated, people that aren't. And so I think this is one of those places where you really have to listen to your customer. You really have to listen to the client and talk about what type of attendees are going to be there when you're designing, so that you can design a space that's going to be comfortable for that particular audience. So I'm going to go through these concepts, and the first one is something we've been using a lot at court and promoting for the past 6 months, and I still think it has relevance when we're in this transitional period to post-COVID, and that's the sanctuary seating concept. And this is owned space. So when I say owned space, that means your attendee has that particular chair or space assigned to them for the entire program, whether it's a meeting, usually a meeting or a conference. And so it's assigned to them, and everything they need is there at that table. And as you can see, it's distanced from the other chairs. So, they feel that sense of comfort where they have their own space. They're in a room where they can still network and connect, but they have that own space that is theirs. And then, of course, you can see, they have the stage distanced up there as well. It's kind of hard to see. But I do think that we're going to continue to have to be mindful of creating distance between attendees for certain types of customers and shows. So another concept I wanted to present here, this is a breakout where, normally a breakout at a show or a conference might have chairs sitting next to each other. These offer a little more privacy with those acrylic dividers surrounding them on two sides. So it gives a little more of a sense of privacy. So when they break out, again, they have their own space. They've got charging in there. They've got a table. So just a few concepts for creating that sanctuary seating. And in addition to that, a lot of events and conferences over the past few months have provided, all the other things that an attendee might need while they are experience a conference or a meeting, from water to food, and even being assigned a lunch group or a number for when they go on break. So whether or not that's going to continue to be important beyond the spring of next year, I don't know. But I do believe that there's a little bit of a winter surge that we see starting to emerge. And I do think you are going to have attendees who are going to, want to have sanctuary seating in these meetings and events. And just some other concepts that, we've been talking about at court for the last few months or the last year, cabaret style seating rather than big, large rounds. I still don't know that a lot of people are going to be comfortable attending banquets that have big, large rounds. So this cabaret style concept is one chair with one table, and the tables are distanced. But now we know that people are also coming with people they trust. I think it's important to have extra bar stools or extra chairs there available so they can pull up another chair or even two to sit and eat or experience the program with others that they trust. And then one more mention here, these tech chairs that we have, they have the charging built in them. They have the tablet itself, and then they can be spaced, again, at whatever distance your particular attendees or your clients are comfortable with in a meeting. We're still showing the acrylic panels between there. From what we know about COVID and how it spreads, they're not really doing anything, but I do believe that it does provide some sense of comfort to some attendees. Some more design tips for distancing, shelving and greenery, obviously, they warm up a space. And then, you don't have to do just all single seats at, small round tables. You can also design with long tables and have one person on either end of a 6-foot table. So it might not be somebody that they know and necessarily have a lot of big comfort level with, but they'll probably sit at a table that's distanced about 6 feet apart there. So large sectionals. I think this plays into a lot of different trends. These really curvy large sectionals, play into those overall trends of, Art Deco and retro modern. But again, they also provide a big, large place for a lot of people to sit and either sit next to each other or sit far apart. And so I think the more of these types of seating groupings that you can work into your design, the more comfortable your guests are going to be. And then again, you can bring in those side tables, bring in that ottoman in front of it, and the guests will then figure out what their comfort level is and how they experience that event. I also am still, I think these large ottoman groupings are the perfect seating right now for this place that we're in, because they do a lot of different things. Again, you can sit next to somebody, or you can find that comfortability to space yourself. These have those charging sticks designed into them, also the side tables. These ottoman groupings can be personalized. So not only can you get them in a lot of different colors, but you can also put your own cover on top, whether it's your brand or a specific color that represents your brand, to give it a custom personalized look. And again, you can also style them in two-tone. So you're getting that multi-tone color blocking look with this type of seating that's really trending right now. Okay, outdoor spaces. Nothing new or earth-shattering here, but I wanted to put a couple of slides in because they're very, very important right now, outdoor spaces. And I know that wherever possible, our clients are still trying to utilize outdoor spaces for various reasons, as we are all know when it comes to COVID. But there's a lot of ways you can, these outdoor spaces provide that space, more space in many cases, to provide not just the fresh air, but to allow people to really spread out. And I haven't mentioned so far about attendees and the clients that are planning events right now, but I think it does bear mentioning that the events that we've seen are really purposeful, and their attendee and client list is very intentional. So they may not be inviting as many people as they would have pre-pandemic to an event or a conference or a meeting, but their budgets are still the same, if not even bigger. So they're actually spending more money on fewer people. So that really plays well to your design and to be able to design for distancing. And so I think that's going to continue for the next little while. Not everybody is attending shows, only certain people that are comfortable, and certainly you want to make sure that you're providing an environment for those people who are very, very important and need to be at a specific event, meeting, or show. So just some more examples of, terrace and designing outdoors. And then lastly, you can also use indoor seating outdoors as long as it is under a tent, it's protected. And you can design breakout areas and have a lot of people in a room. You're under a tent, but you still got open air. And I think that's going to continue to be important, especially in the South. As we move into winter, we know that we're planning a lot of events in the South, in Florida and Southern California. This type of design, I think, plays very, very well. Lastly, tenting and cabanas. This is outdoor furniture, but if you have a big outdoor space, drapery and cabanas, creating cabanas with drape, I think is a great design element that provides cohesion, and it also gives that extra element of privacy. So just some other looks there for you on tenting and cabanas. Accessories. So I mentioned at the very, very beginning, when we're creating this maximalism, this textural overload, accessories become more and more important, whether it's rugs, whether it's pillows, whether it's, bowls or vases, or the greenery, I would put in the accessory category as well. But, this is a way to get, either the theme of your event out there by color, or using plant and animal motifs, which are really trending right now, into your designs. This is a great way to do it. And also floral. Florals have been trending for the past few years. They are going to continue to trend. And everything from the really, small types of florals to the big oversized floral prints as well. So, it's a great way to create a mood, to create ambience, and to also warm up a space. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention accessorizing, because it's very, very important. Uh, so I wanted to say something briefly about vaccination and wellness checks. And, the shows I've been to recently, some of them have required vaccination and require people to show proof of vaccination. So that's still going to be important. Others, have required either vaccination or testing, and some have not required either. So I think you're just going to get a mixed bag over the next few months, again, depending on your client, depending on the type of industry it is, the type of program. But I think, you're still going to be asked to probably provide, some registration that incorporates, a wellness check of some sort. Some shows are doing it pre-event and pre-show, but others are still doing it on site. And one thing that I'm still seeing out there, definitely seeing, are the acrylic bar and counter dividers on top of registration and on bars and food counters as well. So that is not going to go away. I think that extra layer of safety or implied safety is something that we're going to not lose as we move out of the pandemic. And then lastly, I mentioned it earlier. One more time I want to talk about it is personalization, because personalization has become so important for many different reasons. Again, it reinforces your brand. It can reinforce your theme, but it also helps with wayfinding. It is a way to customize that event to make it unique. So whether you're using that bar, that square bar, that lighted bar that everybody's used at every event for the last 5 years, you can really make it your own. And the printing nowadays is so crisp and it's so clear that it really is a professional way to customize and own that event with your brand. And so everything from tabletops to bar fronts. And again, this you can't see it very well, but this is a little ottoman cube that has a fabric slip cover that goes right over the top. It fits very tightly and also can be designed to fit your brand or any pattern. So customization is more important than ever as we move forward, because people want to experience something new and unique, and you want to be able to provide that experience for them. So personalization is the best way to do it. Okay, that is the end of the presentation. And Kathleen, I'm going to turn it to you to see if we've got any questions.
Well, Kevin, a long time ago, I used to be in fabrics and furniture, so this seminar is my absolute favorite one of the entire year. I have to just say that right here. You are so lucky to be surrounded by such beautiful aesthetics. I'm kind of jealous. Anyway.
It is fun. It is fun. It's the fun part of my job, trust me. Yeah.
Yeah. You explained everything and were so fascinating that we only have a couple of questions, but they're good ones. So we'll get started with that. And the first one is about cleaning rules. And I guess how the cleaning of rental furniture, how do you, is it better to go with, as you were mentioning, the marble and the granite versus all these soft, plushy fabrics? And what should we be aware of in terms of cleaning the furniture in the COVID era?
That is a great question. And it's one I've had before in these presentations too. So I can speak from Court's perspective as a rental company. And there's several different points here. So when it comes to cleaning, we're CBAC certified, which means that we have a cleaning procedure that sanitizes all our furniture when it comes back. And whether it is fabric, whether it is vinyl, or whether it's a hard surface. So we have cleaning products that are antimicrobial. And so everything is cleaned and then it's wrapped. And when we deliver to an event or a show, everything comes wrapped and we unwrap it on site, and it is certified clean. It's called Court certified. We certified that it is, it's ready and clean, and you can trust that it's clean for your clients. Now, that said, there are certain antimicrobial properties that we use in our vinyls. So the vinyl we use for all of our black and white has antimicrobial properties. So even during an event, that that minimizes the chance of there being, something bacteria, something living on that vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that answers that question. But, from Court's perspective, everything comes clean and ready to use. Now, during an event, I do think it's important, if you have, furniture that people are eating on, that, you do have staff there to, definitely come and sanitize surfaces if you're more than one person are using, a side table or something like that, or even a cafe table. But I don't know that we really have to worry too much right now with what we know about COVID when it comes to the actual fabrics. I think, the hard surfaces where someone's eating is probably a little bit, more important. So, but definitely, I think, having staff there to make sure that the room is cleaned, especially those hard surfaces after someone eats, is important.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to be kind of jumping around a little bit, but we had a question about finding whether something like rattan wicker, is that a look? Is that a trend right now, do you think? A fad? It's not, and I don't know. Anyway, you go.
Yes, I know exactly where this question is coming from, and I did show a little bit of caning there. Rattan and wicker, it is a trend. It plays very well into that modern boho design trend where you're using grasses and you're using, plants and things that are, of the Mediterranean, and that the caning. We see that in a lot of furnishings. And I have to say, it doesn't play very well for rental furniture. However, we've been able to incorporate that caning pattern on bar fronts and on tabletops. So you can actually bring that, pattern in to any tabletop, with a personalized decal. And we've done it on some events because I love that trend. And I love it from the aesthetic point of view because it definitely lends to that more organic feel. So I could say anytime you can, bring that, design into your overall look, I would. I don't know. It might be a little bit of a fad right now, but it seems to be getting stronger. So I think we might be looking at trend here because I'm certainly still seeing it out there in residential furnishings, not so much in commercial.
Okay. One of the things that you brought up, sanctuary seating, appeals to me entirely, being the introverted person I am. I love it. But in a space where you need to fit, say, 250, 300 people, do you have a recommended percentage of how many sanctuary seats you should place within an event in order to fill that space properly?
Wow. Without getting into, dimensions, and I know where this is coming from. Look, there are space challenges in ballrooms and, you have clients that are trying to get a certain amount of attendees into a space. And I think the conversation begins with your client about the goals for that meeting or conference or event. How many people do you need to seat? What are the goals for this? And if you want to provide them all a sanctuary seat, you might have to be honest. If they have a certain number and you've only got a limited space, you're going to say, well, look, we can still do that, but it's not going to be 6 feet. Maybe it's 2 feet. Maybe it's 3. I do think that people are pretty uncomfortable still, going back to sitting in ballroom seating chairs that are right next to each other. I mean, I was uncomfortable before sitting next to a stranger, that close because they're so very close. So I think just spacing a little bit further, whether it's 2 feet or 3 feet, is going to give your clients and attendees that, sense of, space that's going to make them feel more comfortable. Now, again, the conversation has to go back to your client and the goals for their meeting, who's attending and why. And maybe, it even goes to, this is the size, this is your budget. Maybe you need to think about, who's attending and who shouldn't be attending and who you should and shouldn't invite. And that's a tough, conversation to have with a paying client. But I think in this era, we need to be honest and say, look, you're not going to be able to get that with your budget and these space parameters. I've been to a space planner. Here's what it looks like on a space planner. I think providing that tool to them, showing them, what it looks like on a space planner and how much, being very honest about how much space is going to be there for them, and making sure that they're comfortable with that and that their attendees are going to be comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. I'm on a budget. What would you suggest
for seating?
Way to incorporate some of these trends?
I have an easy answer. Ottomans are a more value type seating. Whether it's bench ottomans or those ottoman groupings, or you're going to get a lot of seating bang for your buck with an ottoman. And like I said, guests can move them around, and they tend to be less expensive when it comes to seating. And I can tell you, side tables are pretty inexpensive too. So, maybe you want to use a lot of ottomans, and you can put 4 ottomans around a side table or an end table, and you can get some really good seating. And it depends on again, the goal for your event. Is it a lounge? Is it a networking event? How do you want people to experience that event? Do you want them to have the ability to move furniture around? But ottoman seating in general is going to be less expensive. And there are seats that are comfortable. Like we have a chair, the Marina chair. It's like, I would say it's a more comfortable banquet chair, that you can provide an individual seat, for less money than maybe something that's larger, or like what we have like a Swanson chair, which would be like the Swan chair. So there are some seats that are not exactly big club chairs or accent chairs that are smaller profile and going to be, less money per person.
Okay, good. Some more questions are coming in.
Right.
I have a couple of people asking about the accessories to the furniture, and if you have any comments on that, such as lighting trends or floral trends.
Yes. Okay. So I didn't really go into lighting or floral. I'm not a florist. You don't ever want me to arrange your flowers. I'm not very good at it, but I know what I like. And what I do see trending is a lot of the big tropical type florals. I mean, that's, I think, probably a big trend out there. But, again, florals, I think, are very, very personal to to the design that you're creating. So, maybe a big tropical florals aren't going to work for every design. So, that's really what I have to say about florals. I'm not a florist, but I do know what I like and what I don't like. And I really love these big, tropical flowers. And so that really plays into that motif and what's trending right now, especially with the animals and the birds motifs. And then on lighting, look, I have never designed an event that didn't incorporate uplighting or, some sort of lighting that was not the overhead lighting, because it's just too important. Lighted furnishings, lighted bars, lighted tables also help. But uplighting for me is an absolute must-have when it comes to the room, because you can change that color, of course, to anything and any color that you need to coordinate with your design. So they're both very, very important. I'm not a lighting person and I'm not a florist, but I absolutely recognize the importance of both of those design elements.
Right. They definitely enhance everything that's beautiful about the furniture and draw attention in different ways. So I have another question for you. This is from Mary. What color woods do you feel will be trending? Dark, oak, driftwood?
I love that question, and I'm sorry I didn't mention it. So what we're seeing is, I mentioned, the black frames, and that's definitely trending for metal. So for woods, we're seeing the lightening of woods, really more towards oak or like bleached woods again, which takes me back to the 80s. So we're definitely seeing, bleached or painted white woods and oaks. So I think walnuts and those medium tone woods, frames are still going to be important. Walnut's kind of a staple and a classic. And we do see some really dark mahoganies on some furnishings in the Art Deco trend. the really highly polished mahoganies with some really upscale, luxurious fabrics. But overall, I think the mass trend is going lighter, definitely towards oaks or those bleached woods.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you, Kevin. This was an excellent presentation. On behalf of Special Events, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Court, and its virtual expert, Kevin Dana, Executive Director of Merchandising and Product Development for Court Events. And thank you to all of you for joining our webcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.